Welcome to Literacy Mindset, where education leaders from across the country share strategies for improving K-12 instruction today and preparing for the challenges of tomorrow. The stakes are high. Students are facing new academic demands, and educators are navigating an ever-changing educational landscape. Each episode, we explore the most effective literacy initiatives, innovative tools, and strategies that are reshaping education. Whether you're an educator looking to improve student outcomes or passionate about driving meaningful change in schools, the Literacy Mindset brings you the insights and strategies you need to stay ahead. This is where education leadership meets real-world impact.
All right. Well, excited to have you, Dr. Rollo, today, joining us in our conversation about literacy in the K-12 landscape. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Absolutely. This is exciting. Love talking about literacy, love talking about instruction, love having multiple perspectives on the program. Let's just start really quickly with giving a little bit of background on you and kind of how you got to where you're at and why you're passionate about instruction in general.
Well, again, thanks for having me, Jeff. I am a lifelong Lubbockite. I'm actually a product of Lubbock ISD schools, so I learned to read in some of the same classrooms that I go visit today. And I'm honored and humbled to be serving now as the superintendent of Lubbock ISD. I've been in this role for almost 7 years. And in my previous roles in the district, I started my career out of college as a teacher, and I taught first grade and third grade and fourth grade. And so I really had a lot of experience in teaching children how to read. And so I'm just very passionate about that. After that, I became an assistant principal, and then I was a principal of an elementary school for 10 years, and then a couple of different roles at the district level before becoming superintendent. So one thing I'm extremely passionate about in Lubbock ISD is ensuring that the 24,000 children that we serve each and every day, that they all have access to high quality instruction. And at the heart of that is literacy. If students are not reading on grade level by the time they're in third grade, then it's very challenging to catch them up. And we all, I mean, that's proven in the research. So I believe that's why our board of trustees, I don't believe, I know that the reason why they selected me for this role is because of my experience with reading instruction and early childhood in particular, because we had so many children who were falling behind very early. And so we've made some great advances in that area that we're really proud of, but we still have a ways to go too.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting um, how difficult it can be sometimes to learn to read, right? It takes conscientious effort and a lot of research on how that happens. You've done a lot in rolling out, but pretty comprehensive literacy programs in the district. Just tell us a little bit about like what does it take to roll out a comprehensive literacy program in a district, that 24,000 kids. That's a big district.
It is. It is. We're definitely a mid-urban district, and are reflective of a mid-urban district in that 3 out of 4 of the students we serve are actually socio-economically disadvantaged. So they're coming to us oftentimes without some of the background knowledge and some of the experiences that other children may have of being read to frequently as a small child before they even start school. And so we've got to fill in that gap. And for some kids, reading does come much easier. But for a large number, there's a science to teaching reading. And so if it's not done well, a lot of our kids are not going to be successful with that. So that being said, I can share a little bit about our journey that
Yeah,
we've
please
been
do.
through over the
Okay.
last few years. So it was, I believe, 2021. And that summer, we were we had just gone through the Texas Reading Academies. That's a requirement that came out of our state legislature that said that all teachers in elementary and principals must attend a reading academy. And it is, I went through it because I thought if we're going to require our people to go through it, I need to know what they're
Start to the top.
experiencing, and I
Love
need
it.
to learn too. And so it was an online, like really a college course on the science of teaching reading. And as we went through that course, as our teachers were starting to go through it, and our administrators and myself, and we started looking at our curriculum, it wasn't aligning. We were taking a whole language approach to teaching reading, and it didn't align with what the new research and science was saying. And there's also a very strong call for reading instruction to be very rich in content so that we're building that background knowledge that so many of our children don't come to us with. A lot of our kids have not even traveled outside of their own little community, much less traveled to other parts of the country or world. And and if they don't have those experiences when they bring them to the table, we have to make sure we provide those. And so we were looking and grappling with some cognitive dissonance around our curriculum is not matching. Our curriculum is not on grade level. It's very almost babyish in some ways. It's not really teaching our kids the background knowledge they need. And then the science behind teaching reading is not there either. And so we were grappling with that. At the same time, we decided to pilot a new reading program that was based on the core knowledge curriculum. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Jeff, but it's very rich in content knowledge. And I happened to have been the principal for 10 years of a core knowledge official visitation site. So I was all into the core knowledge. I mean, I knew how powerful that was for kids. And yes, the school where I was a principal was a little bit more affluent than the district, um, but we were thriving. That school, all children, even those who were not, were thriving because of that rich content knowledge. And my own children went through this school, so I even heard them share things that they had learned through core knowledge, even as they were in high school and college.
It's like
So
aha moments of like,
yeah, yeah,
I'm figuring it out. Okay.
absolutely. So the new curriculum was based on core knowledge, but Texas took it and adjusted it to make it align much more strategically with the science of teaching reading, but also having that rich content knowledge that was in the core knowledge curriculum. And then we rolled it out and piloted it at 3 campuses. And we talked to some principals who we knew had some experience with core knowledge, either as a teacher in the past or in some way, and asked them if they would be interested. And so we had 3 who said that they were very interested, and not even school wide. They just did it in various grades in their schools with teachers that they knew were willing to try it.
So you
And
were like volunteers, like who
yes,
wants to
these were
try this out? You weren't
volunteers.
hand selecting people by any specific criteria. This was just, are you interested? And if you are, we're gonna kind of lean in some, okay, oh, that's excellent.
Absolutely.
All
So we
right.
piloted at 3 schools. At the same time, during that first year, we decided to bring together a district-wide literacy committee. And this committee was made up of close to 75 people. And they were some of our teachers from around the district. They were some teachers who were whole language diehard believers
Okay.
um, that were really struggling with the science of teaching reading and going through the reading
Sure.
academies. We had teachers from all over the district, all different grade levels. We had Texas Tech at the table because
Okay.
they're training a lot of our teachers how to
Sure.
teach reading. We had Lubbock Christian University at the table, so we had our higher ed folks as part of that work too. And
So
again,
not
this
just the
was
district,
just
you had some other
yeah,
people as part of this
we
committee.
did
Okay.
absolutely. So we did a year-long study with this group of stakeholders. We met about, I think it was once a month. We read the knowledge gap. And I can't think of the author of the knowledge gap right now, but we read the knowledge gap together, did a book study. We dug into our own data and could see where we had major holes. We talked about the science of teaching reading, and we dug into the research behind it. And So that took the year while the three pilots were going on. And we were watching the progress of those three pilot schools, and they were making academic growth at much higher levels than the other schools across the district. But what was even more exciting was just the level of engagement in the classroom. The kids loved the learning. They were having so much fun with the lessons because they're thematic, but they're based on really relevant real world topics while it's building that rich content knowledge. And then there's also the skills component that they were learning, which was based on the science of teaching reading. And so at the end of that year, we made the decision to go district wide with that curriculum. And we have seen gains across the board, but highest gains are with our students who are most marginalized, our most at-risk students.
Really? Okay.
So our low SES students are students who have typically underperformed. And so, I mean, that's what's been most promising.
Would you attribute that, if you were to break down percentages, would you say that that's because of the academic rigor, or you spoke of the engagement? How much do you attribute to the fact that these students now enjoyed it more, and that, obviously matching with the academic rigor helps, but I don't know, how would you evaluate those two things?
Well, I don't know that you can separate the two.
Okay, okay,
I think that's hard. That's a very fair question, but I don't know that you can separate that, because if kids are bored stiff with what you're presenting, even if it's rigorous material, then how much they actually retain and carry
right.
forward
Yeah, so
is.
it's almost though where we get maybe in trouble of trying to define rigor as such an academic way of looking at it, and not realizing that rigor in isolation can be problematic, right? But that rigor needs to incorporate, sort of like having a strategy, but if you can't execute against the strategy, then was it a good strategy? It was like, if you have good rigor, but nobody is engaged in the rigor, then is it really rigor? Because they're not actually doing it, because rigor is defined by actually doing it. So, okay, that's fascinating. All right.
We had
Um,
done work around academic vocabulary in the past,
okay.
um, but seeing the vocabulary that our elementary kids are using with this curriculum, because it's embedded and it means something, and it's building their schema around that content, is just, it's been super powerful for us. And we actually took it through 8th grade, so that curriculum is now all the way through 8th grade.
District-wide,
Mm-hmm.
pre-K through K
Yeah.
through 8. Okay. That's awesome. Well, let's kind of stay on that track, but kind of think about something that is oftentimes talked about um, in tandem and in different circles, and that would be personalized learning. So how do you think about this literacy initiative that you rolled out? You now have cohorts, and that's what core curriculum is job is to bring these grade levels together. How do you how does personalized learning fit into that? I know you talk a lot about personalized learning. It's a big thing for you. And then, does technology play a role? Does it have to play a role? Does it not play a role? Just kind of talk about personalized learning and technology.
Sure. So personalized learning, I think, is a big word that could mean multiple different things. We actually have a couple of campuses that are doing some blended learning, and the way that they personalize that is the kids are actually researching and studying and learning about topics that are of interest to them.
Excellent.
Um,
Okay.
we're doing that in one of our middle schools, and also in one of our alternative schools. Personalized learning is also putting kids on their own individual learning track and providing support and helping them through that. But a lot of the learning is done on their own. We also have project-based learning. We have a magnet school that focuses on project-based learning, where the kids are, again, working collaboratively on cross-curricular projects. So they're actually learning the content, but they're doing it in a cross-curricular way. So we have some different models around the district that are options for families that are really interested in some of those more innovative approaches to learning. But personalized learning can also mean when a teacher's pulling back a small group of kids in her regular classroom and is ensuring that they have um, they're filling in the skills that they are missing. So they're assessing kids and they figure out this group of kids needs this particular skill, so I need to pull them back and do some additional instruction with them. So that, in my mind, that's personalized learning as well. And then I think personalized learning too is just having lots of options, particularly when you move into the secondary world. Lots of options for kids to choose what career
Voice, yeah.
pathways they're
Yeah.
interested in. And so our district is one that offers very robust choices for our students. So we have lots and lots of options. So that's personalized learning in my mind as well.
Yeah. No, it is, and I think that we use personalized learning almost to sometimes mean individualized learning, mean differentiated learning. Like, but it's like it's how do we let learning be personal for a student and something that's them?
And
And
you
I do
asked
think
about
that
technology, and I didn't
yeah,
cover
yeah, no,
that.
go.
So, absolutely, technology has to have a part in that. Um, I, I I think about our libraries today, and that is where kids in typical past have gone to pick out books of their
Yeah,
choice
yeah,
on
that's where a lot of
topics they
choice
want
came
to learn
from.
more about. And um, our libraries are not used for that purpose very much anymore. I mean, our
Okay,
checkout rates are minimal. And kids go to the
okay,
space, and some libraries have even turned them into maker spaces and some other things. They use the spaces, but they access everything that they need for their choices with devices now. And so
online.
it plays a
Okay,
role in that. We do have some courses that students can take online and then have a teacher that supports them in that learning. So there's a role for technology in that. I think there's a role in technology with technology for helping us assess what kids need so that we can personalized, targeted instruction for skills that are missing. So absolutely, there's a role for technology in any kind of personalized learning.
well,
And if we're preparing kids for their futures, which is our number one job, they're going to have technology in their lives beyond high school graduation, whether they go to college or go into a career, and even the military. I mean, they're all going to need to be able to know how to access technology, access tools, evaluate those tools, evaluate the information they're receiving from those tools. So absolutely, it's our job to train them how to do that.
yeah. Well, let's stay on the technology track then for a little bit here, and like how how do you balance the power or benefit of technology with what can be perceived by some, and I don't, that's wrong to call it a perception. It's a reality. Like it can be a distraction as well. Technology can really be a distraction. So what do you guys do, and how do you think about like optimizing the value you get out of technology while limiting the distractions?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. There's not anything that drives me more insane than when I walk into a classroom and every single kid is on their own device and there's no interaction with each other or the teacher may just be monitoring and walking around, but I mean, we've got to have human interaction in the instruction equation. It's a necessity. If COVID taught us anything, we know that we cannot
You don't
just
want to do
put
that.
kids on devices and expect them to learn and grow at high levels. So I think you've got to have a balance. I think there has to be a balance of kids on devices and using technology, but also that interaction with each other, students and students with high quality teachers.
Are there things that you find it hard to do? Like, are there things that you as a superintendent, you're like, I wish software companies would do this better because, man, it makes it tough. Like I find myself saying, why can't you lock yourself in a browser, right? So that I can't click on Facebook or Twitter or something like that on the side. Like, how do you think about that? And what would you push, software companies like mine to to do better on that front?
Well, we're constantly trying to balance what do we lock down and not give access to, and then what are the consequences of that? Because there are, and so that's a conversation that our team, I say our team, our executive level team at central office, have on a very regular basis and have to reevaluate it frequently. Um, I mean, there are great monitoring tools out there that we used so that teachers have a better way to monitor what kids are doing on their computers, and that's always very helpful. Cybersecurity is a real thing that we're always on the lookout for. But again, we have tools to help prevent against any of that too. And some of our kids are smarter than than we think as far as,
Indeed.
trying to
We
hack
want
into
we want
systems.
them to be that smart, right? That's great
Yeah,
because
we
they'll go on
do.
and do wonderful things.
Let's do it
We just
to
need to be
kill
able to
cancer.
we
Yeah.
just need to guide it, right? Just
Yeah,
direct this
absolutely.
in the way.
Absolutely. As far as another thing that we are grappling with, and I know districts across the country are, is how do we how do we prepare our kids around artificial intelligence, and
Mm,
even more than our kids, how do we prepare our staff
right.
on how to handle that? That's a very real thing that of course I know we're all facing, and we've got a committee right now that's kind of like our literacy committee. We've got an
Yeah.
AI
Well,
committee that's
say more about that. What are you doing on this committee and how are you approaching that?
we're in the early stages, and right now our technology policies that are in our student code of conduct and then our campus level policies. I mean, they all have kind of their own set of rules around how kids can't
Okay.
and can use it. We are seeing more and more teachers wanting to use it so that kids, I mean, because they're going to use it in their futures, they are now. Um,
So is
and
the
so
committee evaluating use cases? Are they evaluating policy? Kind of what are you having them evaluate?
it's really more policy
Okay.
decisions, so that we're more on the same page around that. Our message is clear because, with five high schools grapple with it more, with five high schools in the district, we kind of have five different things going on right now.
Right.
So it has
Trying
we have
trying to
kids
figure out
on the
how many
team.
essays
Yeah.
were written by ChatGPT.
Yes,
Right.
and I mean
Yeah.
now our in Texas, our state assessment, the writing portions are now graded using AI intelligence. So I mean it's a very real thing.
So finding
And
a
we can
way
either,
from a
yeah,
policy
so
standpoint to be able to have that replicated or have people practice on it, have teachers. That makes a lot of sense.
but there's also some really unique ways that I've seen. We're not there yet in usage, but where um, some technology tools are using AI to give kids more immediate feedback as they're
Mm,
reading. And so if we tie this back to literacy instruction, one of the biggest challenges that, let's say, a first grade teacher has, if this teacher has 22 children in her
right.
class, hearing kids read each individually is super important. And a first grade teacher
And super
can't.
difficult.
Yeah, yeah. And so I've seen some tools where kids read to the computer and it gives them instant feedback and helps them sound out a word and then adjust to the kid's level. So I think that's a really unique and new thing that I've seen using AI as an instructional tool for literacy.
Right.
It
No, that's
reminds me, I went through a program, um, the Holdsworth Superintendent Leadership Program, a few years ago, and it was an incredible experience. But they gave us access to an AI tool where we practiced, as a superintendent, practice giving a speech to the computer, or we also could just upload a video of ourselves
okay.
doing
Right.
it,
A
and
recorded
it
speech.
gave us instant feedback, like on eye contact,
Really?
inflection. So this new tool for reading instruction really reminded me of that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, I'm not sure how well I would get feedback on my eye contact. I don't know where to look sometimes on a computer.
I know.
Right? I find that difficult. Um, okay, in Lubbock, you also talk about whole child. Like, how do you think about the whole child? So maybe maybe describe for the audience, what do we mean when we say whole child, and how does that influence the way you think about instruction? And obviously, literacy instruction is a part of that.
Absolutely. So, you know, kids don't necessarily come to school for English class in high school. They come to school to feel connected and to feel a part of something and feel like they belong. And so when we talk about whole child in Lubbock ISD, we really are referring to is having lots of opportunities for kids to find ways to belong, for kids to find ways to explore their interest. So it goes back to that personalized learning and different career pathway options and all of those things. We just, as a district, are committed to making sure that our kids have lots of options, and whether that's fine arts, whether that's athletics, whether that's our career and technical education courses. We want all kids to be able to explore their interest and belong somewhere and feel like they're a part of something. So we're not just here to teach the basics. We want to make sure we're building great human beings, and along with that goes making sure that we are giving kids not only the skill set they need to be successful, but the mindset. So we also we talk a lot in our district about what are the what are the thoughts and beliefs and confidences that you need to be able to be successful in a future career.
Face
So when I talk,
challenges. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. When I talk to business leaders in the community, um, they don't ever tell me, when I ask them, what do you want of our students when they leave us and come to your workplace? What do you want from them? I don't ever hear, I want them to have this SAT score, or I want them to be in the top 10% of their class. I don't hear that. What I hear is, I want them to be good communicators. I want them to be problem solvers. I want them to be creative. I want to know that they know how to resolve conflict. So,
Yeah,
so
good teammates.
those
Right,
are
right.
skills that we've tried to embed in everything we do.
That's awesome. Appreciate that. Okay. Um, this is a topic that's obviously near to us here at Mindplay, but um, how do you how do you approach intervention in Lubbock? Obviously, the goal is to do right by the initial curriculum and have high instructional content. But how do you guys think about intervention, and what role does technology help play in an intervention world?
Absolutely. So it's going to look different depending on the level, but in elementary school, intervention is crucial. And so it is built into the school day. Um, Teachers assess students on a regular basis, and they either use some technology tools that we have to fill in some gaps, or they also pull kids back in small groups. Again, I think that balance is crucial. The tools help us see what they're missing, and then the teacher can help fill in. But there are some adaptive programs that kids can also, have some instruction that way as well. But I do think that human intervention is crucial. So elementary, it's built into the day. Again, I'll repeat, but if kids aren't reading on level by third grade, it becomes increasingly harder to fill in those gaps. So, I mean, it is vital for elementary kids to get those gaps filled in. Secondary, it's going to look a little different. Some it's built into an advisory period during the day, and then the kids go to whatever they need. There's also tutoring, of course, that's offered. Middle school, we do have more intensive interventions than probably high school does, but high school does have obviously, tutoring options and those kinds of things for kids. And then all of our teachers are very well, I shouldn't say all. Most of our teachers are very skilled at, during a class period, intervening sooner than later, right then and there. You know, some of the best interventionists are our athletic coaches because they
That's
watch the kids.
coaching is a natural part. You're constantly intervening,
Absolutely.
right?
And they give immediate feedback. And most of our athletic coaches also teach a subject area, so they're also skilled at doing that in math or science or reading. So the more immediate we can give feedback and intervention, the higher probability that that kid's not going to fall further and further behind. Of course, tier one instruction, when you have high quality tier one instruction, um, the need for intensive intervention becomes less, but I don't think it'll ever go away because you're always going to have kids who have gaps for whatever reason, whether it's absences or they've moved from school to school. Um, you know, things happen in the home. You know, whatever it is, we're always going to have kids that have some gaps, and it just takes some kids a little longer to learn something than other kids. So
Yeah, that obviously I think, or I like to spend time thinking a little bit about the future. When you work in technology, it feels like you're constantly trying to create the future because people are asking for something that doesn't exist and seeing if we can
yeah,
create it.
absolutely.
But but I do think about that. Like, is our goal when we talk about high quality instructional material at a tier one level, do we envision a day in which we could be so good at that, right, that the word intervention sort of goes away? But the way you just talked about it is interesting to me because if you think about it from a coaching perspective, right, sometimes the intervention is more about we have to make the misstep and then learn that it was the misstep along the way so that we can actually figure out what it's just part of the learning process, right?
It's failing forward. I mean, if you
Right.
do something incorrectly or if you don't understand something, it's okay, and you got to be okay with that, and then fill in those gaps. So I don't know that intervent. Maybe we won't call it that forever.
Right. Okay. Fair. Maybe it would
But
just be we'll find a different way to think about it because we will have better understood how important it is to have that failing forward mentality and the mindset that is our brains are, connecting those dots as we learn that process. That's great. Okay. Interesting.
we don't innovate
Um,
without making some mistakes along the way.
right. No, that's a great point. What let's stay on, let's go back a little bit, I guess, to technology. What are some of the biggest challenges? Like people that listen to this, they come on sometimes, they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Every software company likes to talk about, how awesome software is. But have you ever tried this? Because it's really hard. What just like talk us through. You guys have lots of software, you have lots of technology in Lubbock. Walk through what are some of the bigger challenges?
Oh, I would say for us right now, we're doing a lot of return on investment work. So
Okay.
looking at the
Just
I'll give an
evaluating how effective it is. Is
yes,
that got it?
and usage rates, and are we getting a return on that? Is it making a difference for student learning? And if not, then we don't need that. We need to streamline that. We're doing that big time right now. This is not instructional related, but we're doing that big time right now with our communication tools
Yeah.
because we're
So
using
many
probably
communication,
we're probably
so many
using
tools.
75 different technology
Right.
applications to communicate with the community and parents, and so we're trying to streamline that. So I think really right now it's more about looking at return on
So the
investment
the biggest
and
challenge is understanding what works the best and how do you make sure that you're putting the dollars to the best things.
absolutely. I mean,
Got it.
we're not unlike a lot of districts across, I know in Texas for sure, um, probably 90% of the Texas districts and especially urbans like us are operating on a deficit budget right now. And so, we're having to cut and do some strategic abandonment. And so, you know,
Strategic
we
abandonment. That's a good phrase. I like that. We are strategically
yeah.
abandoning this software today because we cannot. That's great. Yeah, no, that's a good point. And you know, with COVID and the absolute needed help that ESSER was, and how it came and really provided that bridge, it also has it also created a, well, now we have lots of stuff, right? And now we got to figure out what's the most meaningful for us.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's a great point. Are are there ways that you hear in your role that teachers like technology the most, and are there ways that get back to you that they don't like technology the most? And that's probably not universal. Every teacher is a little bit different, but are there like themes that you hear sometimes?
Um, I keeping it at the instructional level, I hear mixed things about kids doing most of their writing using technology tools. The
Right?
curriculum that I
This
told you about earlier, I mean, it comes with a software suite, and the kids actually put in their responses. Kids are not writing as much
handwriting.
handwriting anymore, and there's
Hey,
mixed reviews on
I got
that.
note cards. I still know how to write. I get
I
it.
still
Okay.
write too.
Yeah,
I
I love it.
do.
Of
So,
course. Of course.
um, so I mean, that's one thing. But I do believe that some technology tools that we've used specifically around teacher collaboration have been extremely beneficial. Um, we're Google, so we have Google Classrooms, and that has been a great way for teachers to collaborate and for us to share instructional materials. But also, it's a good way for parents to stay
Yep.
updated on what
On
their
top
kids
and
are
connected,
doing.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've found that to be true as well. Many teachers love technology that can help connect what they're doing in the classroom to parents who are as interested as they've ever been sometimes in what's going on in the classroom. Okay. We didn't when we were chatting before this, we didn't really touch on this, but I've just been thinking about it as you've been talking. What's the role of data in the world of technology? Because you talked about assessments and using that, and obviously you have technology here that does this. I feel like at times teachers are swimming in data, but yet it's a little bit difficult to get insights out of it. Like there's data, but like, do I? uh, So talk to me a little bit about like data, how you guys use it, and how do you help teachers swim through all of the data and find actual meaningful insights?
I mean, it's one of our three pillars in the district. Develop leaders, love people, and value data. So
and
it's definitely
and
something that's,
data. Okay, I
yeah,
love it.
and we try to use data to back decisions, not just emotions. So we definitely use it at all levels of the organization. But as far as teachers and instruction go, um, data is used predominantly in their professional learning community structures. So they
Bring
meet
it back to the
weekly.
group and
Hmm.
talk about what you're learning.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Because there's a story behind every piece of data, and the only people who truly know what those stories are the people in the classroom with the kids. And so they look at formative assessment data, they look at our district assessment data, they look at growth from last year's state assessment to where they are right now on our district assessments. And so they look at their we do progress monitoring for literacy using an intervention tool. So they analyze that data and see which kids are making growth. They use big wall charts on our campuses, and they actually plot the kids where they are. They
That's
do.
fantastic.
So they can visually see, and they put their pictures on in some schools they put the kid's picture on it. So I mean, it's not just a number, it's a kid.
Right? It's a student. Oh, I
So they
love
can
that.
quickly glance at the wall chart and see, okay, here's my group I need to pull and work with. We use
So
a
you're
tool called,
creating a data culture. It's not, you're not just
absolutely.
using it as
Yeah.
one of your pillars, but you actually have things in the campus where
Uh-huh.
you like, we obviously care about data and you can see it visually. I love that.
Absolutely. And then we do a lot of student goal setting. So we have the students look at their own data and set a goal, and then they meet with their teachers regularly to see their progress toward the
How they're
goal.
doing against their goals.
And then there's action steps. What do I need to do in order to reach that goal?
If I am
Mhm.
a distance away, how
Yeah.
how am I gonna do that? Okay.
So there's another example of personalized learning. The kid sets his own goals or her goals, and yeah.
That's great. I love that. I think that it's become too easy sometimes to fall into the buzzword trap of data. I love hearing all of the specific examples of things that you guys are doing to make sure that that doesn't happen, right? That it is actually part of your DNA, part of the culture of the district, and we do data here. That's what we
And
do. We embrace
it
data.
goes, yeah, it goes all the way up to our board of trustees. I mean, they have set goals for us to carry us through 2026, and we have annual benchmarks, and then we report to them quarterly where we are. And so we did that at a workshop meeting yesterday morning, as a matter of fact. So
Oh, that's excellent. And that helps guide you on even who you partner with, right? People that know how to help you accomplish those goals or can help you with that. That's wonderful. Okay, well, we have spent a lovely 40 minutes together here, which is usually about how we do this, but I'm gonna reserve a little bit of space here because I always like to end with this. I want you as a superintendent who has vision. It's one of the unique things to me that usually puts superintendents in their roles is because they can see something about people, about structures, about organizations in the future that may not be here yet, but they know how to go get it. So give us a sense with your visionary lens here of what does the next 5 years look like for us with AI's, surgeons coming and really putting a lot of pressure on things? Just like, what is it an optimistic one, or are you sitting there thinking, "Oh, Jeff, this is a tough out there. This is not good." I think I know the answer to that, but walk us through.
oh
Leave our
goodness,
listeners with that.
yeah. Well, I do believe that in order for us to move forward as public schools, and I'm going to speak specifically about public schools who educate the vast majority of our students in this nation, and I believe are the future of our democracy, the future of our economy, the future of our workforce, our future, period. We're going to have to think differently about some of the systems and structures that we have in school. We've operated on bell schedules and pretty rigid things that come to us from when schools were first started, and we're trying to do some of that with some innovative programming. But I think we're going to have to continue to think differently about that.
Okay. So you actually see some fundamental structural changes that could happen around how we
I
walk around
do.
campus, or how that's amazing. And
But
are
we're
you?
not ready to take that leap
It,
yet,
it
but yeah.
it takes some time,
Yeah,
but do you think that we're on the precipice of some changes in the next 5 to 10 years?
I do. I do.
Okay. Well, I love hearing that. You heard it first here, everyone. We are looking into the future, and we were talking about the value of what we can do to change public education and modify some of the things that maybe have been around for a long time. And it takes leaders like you, Dr. Rollo, to be able to do that. So I can't thank you enough for being my guest today on the
Oh, thank you
show.
for having me. It was a
Uh,
joy.
it's an absolute pleasure. We love talking about literacy. We love talking about technology, and we today have loved talking about Lubbock Public Schools. So Lubbock ISD.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found today's conversation insightful, be sure to subscribe to Literacy Mindset. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube for updates, resources, and to join the conversation. Have a topic you'd like us to explore? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time.